That's a very long time ago. Okay, it was like 2009, 2010, when YouTube was in it's the second wave or something, and the whole layout was different and everything. But my friend wanted to learn to DJ, so I made a series on DJing, and then that really took off. So then I decided I would start making other stuff, and then because I did that, it all kind of worked in order, and then I became what I am today.
Oh man. Well, I think I probably answered the same way back then, but I started making tutorial videos for friends in whatever it was, middle school or high school back then. And one of my tutorials just happened to do really well. And when you're, 15 or 16 and you have a video that gets 10,000 views, and you're like, oh man, I should keep doing that. So I made a series on virtual DJ that evolved into Ableton, and then from Ableton into a variety of just a lot of other videos in relation to audio software. And that's kind of where the channel sits right now. I'm less active on the channel these days just because I've kind of pivoted towards more solo artist stuff and that sort of thing, but I still upload on the channel to this day.
Started to help out people, and I guess that's kind of what I'm doing now still. Like I'm more of like I don't know, I like to support other people rather than my own fame. But I mean, at the same time, I do make music as an artist, so I do like to be popular and get views, but it's not the focus of my channel.
I think when anybody starts on YouTube, it's really for just being enthusiastic about creating something cool. And as you progress down that path, it becomes more and more about numbers games and growing and trying to create something better than the last. But recently, I mean, I've had so many life changes over the past like 5 years that now I'm growing away from that inevitability of social media numbers and stuff, and I'm trying to really dial in. Regardless of how things perform, I want to create something that I really love or really care about.
I started as a DJ, and then that evolved into music. And then because I made music, I wanted to make videos to correspond with those. So like I made tutorial videos first, so I learned the editors and stuff. And then I started making music videos, and then that evolved into animation and making animated stuff. And then while I'm doing all this, I need to brand myself, and I need to do like, floaters and stuff on videos. So I started getting into graphics. And then, I just kind of established this knowledge of a lot of different things at once.
I think it was more important to me like 5 years ago to be the head of every single creative decision on my brand. But now I still am very active in everything I do, and I think it ascends from this obsession with learning new digital creative tools. And that falls back again to my obsession with tech and new software. I always just want to learn how to do things, like graphic design, design in general, digital illustration, digital art, music, of course, motion graphics and video stuff. It's all stems from like doing cool creative stuff on a computer and that interest that I had as a child. And it still is used every day. I do design work for my music releases, for my collective Gradient, for my YouTube channel, or, maybe even like motion graphics or video or 3D design for song visuals for a live show.
I started into DJing side, so I was always into like the dance music kind of stuff. But when I started writing music, I really, it clicked for me. I knew I wanted to write it, and I started doing like scores, and I started doing a whole bunch of different types of music. But electronic music has always been like the focus.
Yeah, I started out when I was young building computers and fixing computers and servicing. I had, parts that I would piece together Windows computers. I would fix up my friends' Macs and stuff. I used to have like a series of old Power Macs I used to play with. But then I think my grandmother got one of the old iMacs, the white ones when they first came out, the first Intel iMac, I think, and it had GarageBand on it. And I started to play with that, and I really discovered, how flexible electronic music could be. Then one day my dad brought home a demo program. He used to work as a guitar teacher, and he bought some sort of like interface or something, and it included a demo of a program. And I wrote an album in like this demo DAW that I had. And between that and like the GarageBand stuff, I really fell in love with electronic music. I think that this is all around the time I was doing YouTube. There was a very weird like niche interest of mine, which was like DJing, that I got into. And I was, like I said in the first question, I was making tutorials for that, and then my love of writing music caught up to that. So I was writing music, I was DJing, and I was teaching on YouTube like DJ tutorials, and that evolved into Ableton tutorials. And then Ableton is the marriage of writing and performing music, and that's, you know, really where I really found my stride.
Run, I was writing the melody about a week before, and I had the basis down. It's actually in one of my videos. I had a tutorial on drums or something, and you can hear the original instrumental. And I wrote the thing, and then I sent it to Laura, the vocalist on the track, and she wrote the lyrics and the vocal melodies in like 1 or 2 days. And I was blown away. And then she came over, we knocked it out in a few hours, and then I just mixed it and mastered it, and we have Run. The mixing was actually the most challenging part, because it was one of the only vocal tracks that I had, and it was already kind of a busy mix. It wasn't like really open, so I had to kind of squeeze the vocals in there. So I was trying to learn how to process vocals while I was writing the song, and it was something I'd never really done like professionally before. So I was learning how to do it as I went. So it took me like a month or 2 to mix and a week to write.
Yeah, so Air was initially a collaboration between me and 28mm. A little bit of backstory on that. 28mm, his name is Christian, and I met him in 2016 actually, which is not far off from when I met you. He was in Burbank. I was living with a roommate in Simi Valley, so I would take the train about an hour over to his house, crash at his place, and we would just write music. And we've been working on music ever since like 2015 or 16 when we first met. Never really landing something that we thought would be appropriate to release, like good enough to release, until maybe like a year ago. He sent me this really cool idea, and a lot of people believe that in Air the main lead counter melody is me because it sounds like me, and maybe that's why I was so in love with it. But he sent me this idea, and that melody was very prominent in the idea, and I was like, okay, that melody is so good, I have to write on this right now. We have to make this a collaboration. And then he sent it over, and then I put my Julian Gray twist on it. And then 28mm actually for years and years has been collaborating with this artist called Numa. He reached out to her, and she's actually in a band called Forts, and it's her and another writer. And they were so enthusiastic about it, they turned around the song in like a day or two, and the track was perfect with the vocal on it. I think that it really made the record, and that's kind of how it came to be. It's just a lot of mutual friends that we've known over the years. I've known of Numa for years now, and it was so good to finally have her and her other member of Forts on the record.
I don't know. I enjoy seeing people enjoy it, but I'm always just like, I'm trying to work on the next project. I'm always trying to work on the next project. So it's like, I don't like rest there. It's like I release it and then I just start on the next thing.
When I was, however old that was, 18 or 19, I was always in this content grind mindset where I was trying to create as much as possible. And I think that I attribute a lot of my success to that era of just, you know, putting out so much stuff that it's impossible to ignore me. And now I'm inspired more by album artists and artists that release very minimal amount of material, but the material that they do put out has like a world around it. It's, you get caught up in the energy and the aesthetic, for lack of a better word, of the release. And that's kind of where I'm at now. And I don't care to put out an absurd amount of music like I used to. Like 2017, I put out like 4 EPs or something. It was crazy. I don't do that as much now because I like to really dial in what the single means and like the world around it. I would rather build like a music video and a lyric video and like build an entire ethos around the single rather than just, you know, release it onto the next one next month. Because those sorts of things, to do it right, takes time. And that's something that I really didn't realize when I was 17.
I'm really proud of Run, and I'm proud of the song I did before that with Escape. I don't know if you've heard it. It's called Working Title. And we didn't really push that one very much, but I really enjoy that one. And if I was ever to play a show, I would definitely play it.
I would have to say my unreleased stuff that I'm working on is my proudest work, but I think that's true for any artist. The newest thing and the most exciting thing is always what you're currently working on. But out of all the things I've ever done, I mean, Air obviously is like the most exciting right now because it's what I just put out, and you know, it's what I really love right now. But you know, there's clear like milestones that I've put out that I really love. Like I had a track with the Canadian producer Deza a few years ago called Cold Outside. It's still my biggest single. I think it's like maybe like 3 million streams across platforms. That one I'm really proud of. You know, it was a big record for both of us, and obviously my Mousetrap EPs were a really meaningful one to me when I was a younger producer. And my last year's release of Static, I mean, I have become to this point where I worked so heavily on each release that I'm equally proud of them all.
My favorite electronic artists, first being Deadmau5. That's, you can probably hear that.
Yeah.
Cascade, Eric Prydz, Porter Robinson, Wolfgang Gardner, Zed, a whole ton of artists. Daft Punk, they got me into the whole DJing thing. I saw a couple of their videos back in like 2007. I was like, dude, I want to do this.
I would have to say, I know that my answer from 2015 was Deadmau5. I would have to put him in my top 10 just because of his residual impact on me. Porter Robinson is a favorite right now. Someone I really fell in love with in like 2016 or 17. Madion is an incredible electronic producer. There are some people in my circle that I really respect from a music perspective. Like Nomana is really cool. In the electronic music space, I actually listen to a lot less electronic music than you would think now. It's evolved a lot into, you know, more alternative stuff, what I listen to now. Coldplay, but not as much. I listen to a lot of them around, you know, their older music, like 2014 and prior.
Yeah.
But I still admire a lot of what they do. I like American football. I like a lot of Radiohead, that sort of alternative music. Honestly, I listen to so much music across the board. The Beatles, Fleetwood Mac are staples in my catalog. It's too broad of a question, but those are some of my favorites.
I've always been the kind of person who tries to put all their effort into whatever. So everything I do ends up taking a little bit longer, but it's always better quality than if I was to just rush things out the door.
It's interesting because I think I believed in quality over quantity, but I was practicing like quantity over quality just based on, you know, how much I was doing. And maybe I thought that what I was doing was great, but looking back now, I'm like, I could have made these better if I just took more time on them. It's just, you know, a realization you have as you get older, I think. And time is more valuable. Like taking a step back and trying to figure stuff out is better than trying to just force yourself to figure it out in the moment. But I still definitely believe that quality overrides quantity. There's a lot of great examples of that. Like one great piece of art is much more, I guess, successful than like 10 that are like lousy.
The biggest for me was Facebook. Like I got into, like when I was 2 or 3 years ago, I had a friend who was in music, and he got kind of put me into this like stream of producers, and then it just continued, and I gained a lot of friends on Facebook and a whole bunch of producer friends that really pushed me and tried to help me learn how to do things that I would have never known how to do.
I feel like such an old guy saying this, but I feel this very much with like Facebook. And I know like the Gen Z kids are like cringing right now. I I connect better with people on Facebook and platforms where I can write like a story, not limited to a certain amount of characters or a 15-second video clip. I just feel more in touch with Facebook and that kind of era.
I think that the biggest tip I have is just don't be lazy and just be persistent. Like keep the quality up and make enough content that you keep your fans or whatever satisfied, and you'll just see this growth over time. If you keep on making good content and you keep on doing it on a regular basis, you'll eventually grow your fan base.
Yeah. I would say the most important thing is to really be yourself and create art and content that you really believe in. And I think that people can see when you're doing something that you truly love to do and you're trying to help people and trying to connect people, people will believe that, and then they'll start understanding your vision and what you want to do. Um, if I had to start over from scratch, I would be doing things very similarly to what I'm doing now and what I did in the start. Just creating a community around what I do and trying to connect people with similar views and perspectives, just to who all believe in like a common vision or dream. I think that that's like the most important thing. I think. Don't pay too much attention to like optics and numbers and stuff, because it's a very unhealthy measurement of your value. I think great work and great art speaks for itself, and people will respect that.